G'day ladies and gents. Fucking this is the first time I've decided to bring my camera along for a moto vlog to work. And by that I mean I'm coming home from work now, because I could be fucked doing it in the morning. I was groggy as shit. But yeah man, here I am fucking cruising about. What's going on? How's everybody going? I'm doing pretty well. Ladies and gentlemen, we have good news about our boy with his lemon motorbike. He will be making some appearances sometime soon because his bike ain't a lemon anymore. That guy to the left of me just fucking gave me one of those looks. Anyway, so like I was saying, our mate with the lemon bike ain't got a lemon anymore. So what happened was, apparently, besides the coil being dead and something to do with the valves being fucked, the guy who sold it, or maybe the previous guy who had it before him, I don't know, did it dodgy, and the odometer was actually swapped from another bike, and they reckon that bike's probably done about 20,000 more clicks than it had. Hence all the problems. Because no bike with 2,000k should be having that many issues, man. But this one did. So now that it's had a little bit of time in the shop and shit's going well, she's fucking grand. Now we just got to learn the thing. Now it's a bit awkward for a fucking beginner of that bike. Just on this side, from the riding ergonomics, you know, ape hangers and fucking forward controls, big heavy lumber as a bastard of a bike, which is the highest on Aquila or Aquila, I don't fucking know how to say it, but 2009 model, so it's carbureted and all that good shit. But yeah, dropped it, broke a peg, dropped it again, broke the other peg, everything's been replaced. Now he's just got to learn to ride the bloody thing well. And good on him, mate, he's stuck with that baby. We went out on a whim, just him and I, and we brought old mate Hugh on for the other one. And we looked at a little Virago, and that Virago is fucking trash. I don't know if it was something to do with the piston rings or the gasket was fucked. That thing just ran like ass. Or arse. Because I know Hugh's gonna fucking bully me about me speaking American. But yeah, that thing fucking, you'd put it in like second gear and it'd stall on a flat surface because it would just run out of go. And honestly, it was a bit funny riding the thing. It was a good fun bike, but it was a shit heap of a Virago. And I think Hugh and I want to do a build on a Virago sometime in the future. Now, when I say sometime in the future, it doesn't mean anytime soon, because money is a thing, and well, we don't have enough money for that shit. Unless YouTube takes off, and then I'll be funding that shit for the both of us. But yeah, so we're looking at building a little Virago 250 sometime in the future, just as a little tester, you know, instead of slamming our money in something that we don't, you know, have the funds to support fully. We could spend our money on a little Virago and just have a good time. By the way, I'm not going to be doing the full trip, because fucking it's like a 40-minute, 50-minute ride, and most of it is just traffic. So like this is probably the more intermediate bit. Then it gets really shit. Then it gets really open. So later on it gets a lot better. But yeah, up until that point, we're just going to be riding and cruising and talking and whatnot. Yeah. So old mate Jason's picked up his bike. It runs so much better. The second cylinder actually fires once it warms up, which is honestly, it's a fucking miracle if you knew what happened to that thing. So the fact that the second cylinder's working is a godsend. Works well, everything fucking works properly on it, nothing's fucked, nothing's really that terrible. The mirror's a little out just because of the fall, but you know, fucking shit happens, hey. It's not as bad as Hugh's Magna. We were just fucking around in his garage and I smacked it accidentally with a fucking bar and I pushed out his mirror, and I don't know if you have a Magna or if you've ever seen how the mirrors on those things work. They're fucking a shithouse. So the mirrors on the Magna, right, you need to fucking adjust it on both sides with a fucking wrench, otherwise it just does not work. And what happens then is it just creates 2 points of movement, and the 2 points of movement, you know, you just can't do it with your hand, so it's fucked. And so needless to fucking say, he wasn't happy about me bashing his mirror. Didn't break anything, it just became annoyingly tedious, and he still hasn't fixed it, I don't think, because he's an animal. But yeah, so that's the Magna story. But Jason's one is just, you just sort of adjust it with your hand and it's fine. But I think it's got to be tightened on the base, like, you don't know, one of those connections. When a 200 and something, was a 230, 40 kilo bike lands on it, it's got to move something, and if it didn't break, it's a fucking good thing, that. So we can't really complain too much. The bike runs, alright? Now, this poor bastard, he's gonna go spend some more money. Always in need of money. On a fucking juicy slip-on. And that juicy slip-on's gonna fucking sound divine, because I don't know about you, but a V-twin is just magic. They have a certain note to them, can't be matched by anybody or any other engine configuration. But a V-twin is just, they hit different. No, we're not gonna make it through the second set of cars, but I guess we moved up a little bit. Yeah, V-twins are just fucking magical. And now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm something of a V-twin kind of guy. And I know I ride a bike with the twin parallel, but that's because I didn't have a good bike that I wanted to buy that was a V-twin, unfortunately. But a twin parallel, she does the job. The reason I bought the Honda Rebel is because it was my first bike. I know it's a good thing to start on. It's low center of gravity, it's light, it looks nice, it's indestructible. You know, that's the kind of bike I was after. Nimble, it's like a fucking Sportster. Nah, don't just fucking tell me in the comments that, oh, you could have just bought a Sportster then, bro, as your first bike. Why did you do that? Buy an Iron 883 or a 12? Ah, listen here, Chief. In Australia, we have a fucking thing called a LAMS, you know, system. Now, the LAMS motorcycle stuff is fucking basically meaning you can't have a bike with a bigger engine than 660, you know, cc's, which isn't very much cc's. Now, I know you can get a 650 that goes burr, but the 650s that are LAMS are very different to a 650 that's not LAMS, because they get restricted, they get like fucking throttle restrictions, they don't put out as much power, they get retarded or something, but they're just nowhere near as good as a traditional 650, which is, honestly, it's tragic. Now, my mate had an XJ6, as we know, Jesus, and he fucking totaled it, and that thing has an R6 engine, and the only restriction that that bike actually had as on the LAMS was a fucking throttle stop. In other words, 15 minutes in an angle grinder, and there you go. And a file, of course, so you don't fuck the cable some more. But there you go, bam, they're restricted. You got an XJ6, you got a slightly detuned R6 engine, but it still goes fucking woo! Whereas this has got the CBR 500 engine, and the CB 500 engine, and the Honda Rebel 500 engine, mate. It's all good. So she doesn't put out too much power, this thing, but she does the job. But the fucking 650s, well, imagine having like an 80 horsepower bike getting retarded down to 40 horsepower, alright? That's pretty much what they do. Or something like 50 horsepower, something along those lines. It's probably fucking pretty shit. And if you do own one of those bikes, and you've de-restricted it, you know the huge amount of difference it makes. Like, imagine having the fucking restricted... If you've ever looked into England and they have the A2 license and you can restrict bikes, we can't do that here. We don't get to do fucking, oh, I want to buy a Harley and can you restrict it for me? No. They just go, oh, that thing's got a fucking, like, 1.8 litre engine in it, mate. You can't fucking drive that, cunt. So you go, sick. I guess I won't then, hey? And that's pretty much how it goes, unfortunately. But yeah, that's kind of the joys of the Australian licensing system. But back to the topic at hand. Jason's got his bike now, which basically means the boys have all got bikes. The three of us, the three musketeers. The only one with a full license is fucking Hugh. And now, Australia used to have this wonderful thing where if you have your full car license, you only need to have your bike like restricted for a year, and then you can get something. But then they changed it to 3 fucking years. So basically, I'm a fully licensed rider, right? But I can't buy a bigger bike for like 3 years. So until 2024, I'm kind of stuck on the LAMS bikes, unfortunately. Unless they make a fucking rule change, which they won't, because they're a bunch of pricks. Now, in my opinion, if you're going to have bullshit like this, you shouldn't, because, well, picture, like, the way I've always explained it, if you had, like, a CBR 500 or an R3, right, or an R7, I guess, and you get used to the learner bikes, and I don't know if you've ridden the Rebel 500, but when you pin it fucking open, she doesn't really take off like another bike does. It's still quick compared to a fucking car, but when you fucking take off on one of these bikes, you don't pop a wheelie and go up into the fucking sky or some shit like that. No, it's just a nice gentle takeoff. It's nice and smooth, very, very linear, and that's it. But when you fucking, if you go from like a fucking R3 to an R1, Jesus Christ, cunt, you're gonna get sent to the moon. So the way I always was like, why would you limit someone for 3 years or more, depending on how long they take to do their L's, to do fucking to the learner bikes? Because if you're riding an R3 everywhere, maybe an R7 takes a bit more power, because I mean, you can de-restrict it. But if you're riding an R3, fucking, and you'll be pinning it fucking fully open everywhere. Like, I rode that CBR 250, you pin that shit everywhere. Now, if you fucking swap from a 250 to 1,000, you're gonna go, woo! Because those cunts pop fucking power wheelies like there's no fucking tomorrow. But yeah, that's just my 2 fucking cents on that issue. Like, if I fucking took off like that on an R1, the bike would be popping a wheelie, and I'd be at 100 already, and I'd be fucking only in first gear. Whereas these bikes like, wheel, woo, and then you're in the fucking like 4th gear or 5th gear to do 70 without the bike vibrating the shit. It's a whole different fucking dynamic. All right, it's just I think it's stupid how they do it. And what they should do is, like, you shouldn't be allowed to, after a certain, like, they should keep the 3-year thing, but if you want to ride a bigger bike, you have to do a course, and I mean like a proper week-long course, not some fucking one-day thing, although I prefer it that way. That's basically like, hey, if you want to ride a liter bike, this is what happens when you fucking accelerate fast. Bike goes woo, driver of the bike goes woo, and front wheel to bitumen fucking scale doesn't exist anymore because the bike just fucking takes off to space. But yeah, it's pretty fucking, you know, exciting. But I think that's really all I'm going to be touching on with today, hey? Not too much excitement, whoops, not too much excitement I want to be fucking, how did I even hit that fucking thing? Anyway. Oh, Cheeky Mac is wrong with the boys? Nah, not today. But yeah, I'll keep riding a little bit longer, just go down some side street or something on the other end of this fucking intersection. Good old Princess Highway. And I think we'll call it a fucking day, ladies and gents. But yeah, thanks for joining me on the first official fucking ride. But here we go, oh, there's a nice little V-twin down there, I can hear him. Oh, it's got the fuzzy fucking dice gun. But yeah, oh, there's a Focus RS down there. I fucking love those cars, I want one. I want one bad. Yeah, well, there haven't really been too many places to fucking pull over at the moment, so I'm just going to say fucking me deuces now, but thanks fucking so much for watching. Take it easy, keep it cheesy. Do like, comment, and fucking sub. Channel's getting a little bit more traction lately. And as always, peace!